Well, I'll say this. YouTube says that conditions are optimal.
I hope so. It's been a bit.
It's an optimal night on the interweb here, on the interwebs. Who are you? Who are you? And why are you here? Ah.
Well, as we've been locked in our quarantine existence, we've had very little news of stuff coming from the Marvel Champions front, and lo and behold, last week we finally got some new stuff coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, there has been those behind the scenes, the bad publicity actors guild room, where we have talked, about, do we get on and do we just, ramble on about how I've won another game with Black Panther, and then you say congratulations, and then we sign off.
Right. We virtual high five.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm gonna go own some villains with Doctor Strange now. See if I can beat them with my eyes closed.
Yeah, the Doctor Strange thing is, the rumors are flying that he's like what they like to call, the kids call it these days, what, OP?
Busted. That's what I hear. But I think, as I mentioned before we went live, sometimes I'm okay with that, man. It's a cooperative game. It's cool to have a really powerful hero, and teaching and showing new players the game, sometimes giving them the ability to use someone who's like ahead on the power curve, allows them to have a good time and just enjoy the game, see if they like it.
Yeah, and I was watching the live stream on the Kang release, and I really agree with how Caleb boiled it down, that I think everything could be OP in the right person's hands in this game, right? Like, depending on what you do, and depending on how you craft the deck and the cards that are available and the scenario level you're playing at, like, there could be multiple times where you could grab a deck, play a scenario, and be like, my deck was just so overpowered.
Yeah, I just crushed it.
Yeah, right? But, I think it's all going to come down to playstyle, right?
Yeah, and it's also just the nature of card games. I mean, sometimes busted things happen. So, but anyway, we're not here to talk about Doctor Strange and his crazy self.
No,
power level heroes.
We are here to answer a question, once and future. That was a bad. Was that like a bad once and for all pun or something like that?
Yeah.
No, we're here to answer the question: the once and future Kang scenario pack. Is it possible to dethrone Green Goblin as this game's top scenario pack? Is Kang coming for the crown?
And our first impression, at least my first impression, is I think he's going to do it. I think Kang's going to get there. Because the theme and what they're talking about...
You get once impression.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
It seems sweet.
That's it. You've used your 140 characters, man. No, I'm just kidding. Go. You can use your future impression now.
What they've described on how the scenario pack operates seems like a blast. And so I guess we can dive in and kind of talk a little bit about if you're unfamiliar, if you haven't read the article, or you didn't have a chance to kind of catch the live stream when they showed off some of the cards in the pack. We're going to do a quick recap of kind of some things I talked about, and just kind of how we feel like the mechanic may come off. So I don't know how in depth you want me to go into it now, or do you want me just to dive right in?
I want you to tell me who Kang is, and not to be confused with the arch nemesis of the Ninja Turtles.
Krang? Yeah. So I had to do a little Wikipedia searching because I was just like, I've seen like Kang's imagery and like other like comic stuff and things I've read, but his first appearance as a Fantastic Four villain, and then he segued kind of over into Avengers to be kind of like a reoccurring Avengers villain. And I think like the idea with like Kang is he comes from the future and he travels back in time, and so there's like a bunch of stuff, and like, you know, he's potentially a descendant from like Reed Richards, and there's like all these like timelines where he's like jumping back and forth. Apparently he has like an interaction with, you know, other characters from like Doom to the guy who becomes Apocalypse. There's all this stuff. It's super deep. It seems really cool. He seems like a really sweet villain. I'm actually pretty surprised I don't know more about him, because like going through and like reading like some of like the Wikipedia things that I pulled, there's a lot of really wild stuff this villain has done, and the things they're pulling from in this scenario pack, it's wide open, and it's going to be awesome if it lands.
We are in logistical chats right now with Caleb to make his appearance on Bad Publicity. Whoa. And we're really going to go in depth with him on you know, a bunch of game mechanics, and ask him about the you know, the overpowerness of Doctor Strange. But what's very interesting in them picking these scenario packs and building around it is you could technically just go for the money shot and just be like, name brand villain, name brand villain, name brand villain. And yeah, like you said, you know, Corey, for those people that are Marvel superhero fans, Kang has never like been that in your face, right? Like, you know, if I look at my generation that was growing up on the old Spider-Man cartoons and you know, the old X-Men cartoons Saturday mornings on Fox. Still
holds up.
Yeah,
the show still holds up.
So you know, if you think that like they were just like shotgunning like characters in there at the end, right?
Yeah.
Like and we really didn't hear much about Kang, so it's very interesting to see the people that they've picked, right? Like you know, we went with Green Goblin.
Right, which is like, boom,
Then,
you know, big iconic Spider-Man villain, straight into Wrecking Crew. It was like, who?
Kang, yeah.
Then Kang. Of course, granted, you have like Rise of the Red Skull in there, and like Red Skull's a big notable villain, and then they have it like mixed in with like some lower grade villains with some more important ones. But it's cool because like, especially for me, like I enjoyed comics. I was more of like a big Spider-Man fan like growing up. So some of these other series or villains I'm not, you know, like super knowledgeable on, but like doing some research on this pack, I looked stuff up and I was like, wow, this dude seems awesome. This guy's got like a crazy backstory. He's done some wild stuff in the series. So
yeah, and when you say about the, you know, the Fantastic Four, it makes sense, right? Because I mean, maybe that's the inspiration for this scenario where, you know, it's like he's fighting a group and he's able to split them out, right? So
yeah,
I mean, and that's what we got here. So yeah, so take us to the next step. Like, so we're on the home page here of the announcement.
So of course we have Kang, right? And he's like the new villain pack, the new scenario. What makes him really cool is he's going to start off like a regular villain. So you have your straightforward like fight against Kang the Conqueror. And he's going to have like his own effects, his own deck, just like normal. You know, hey, we've done this before, right? We played this game. But when you get through his next stage and his level, he has this cool twist where he pretty much like banishes the team through different time periods. And the way that's going to work mechanically is every player in the party, so let's say there was 3 of us playing the game, our team gets split up and separated of 4.
Let's say there's 4, since that's what the picture I have on the screen has.
Okay, cool, sorry. There'll be 4 of us in this imaginary scenario. I don't want to destroy your graphic.
Corey, look at you actors, man. Stick to the script. Don't improvise here.
Yeah. So we'll all get banished to different time periods. So in the early stage, we were acting together as a group battling Kang. Now Kang has separated us, and we each have our own time period with our own like villain and encounters that we have to defeat. And then as you defeat people, you can like travel to kind of, I guess, like meet up and help out until eventually everyone has battled back through time to get back to Kang for then his like phase 3 to come in, and then you have like the big like epic final battle. But the split up is such a cool thing because they've shown like the theme of like all the different time periods. And the deck's random, so you don't know which time period you're going to get. And I think there's more. I'm not sure entirely because I don't know if they've given an exact number, but I think there's more than 4 different time variations. So there's going to be like some new ones that introduced as you play it multiple times. Theme oozing all over the place. It's so cool just because I don't think we've had that before where you kind of get separated to where you have to battle by yourself. You can't be helped by your other teammates.
So let's think about this, Corey. What is your thoughts on playing something like this? For lack of a better comparison, I'll always remember a board game review of Agricola where somebody just called it multiplayer solitaire. So that term has kind of stuck with me, and give me your impressions right off the bat from that perspective where I'm saying, hey, we're playing a cooperative game, but you're just going to go this corner of the table and play by yourself for a while. Go and take your ball, go in the corner, play. I'll tell you when you can come back and join the group.
But you can come back and join the group when you've achieved your challenge, or if another player beats theirs and they come into your time period to help you out. So there is some like people who are better at it can suit, I guess, and come in and like help battle you out. But I know some people maybe turn to like we're playing a team game and then we get separated. But I think that's an interesting way to introduce a challenge. And the scenario starts off as a team and it's going to end as a team. This is kind of like the 3 phases. This is kind of like the middle phase where this is like his twist on the scenario is he splits you all up and then you have to battle your way back together as a group to then be able to face him. So
yeah, and I'm really wondering, again, these are good discussions to have once we are virtually face to face, with the man that brought this together. When did he think about this? If we look at this, is supposed to hit after Red Skull, and I think you and I have kind of talked. We don't know if it's official, but we look at our history at Fantasy Flight is after a pseudo big box that closes a cycle off.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we look at this as the new cycle, it's interesting to see when this kind of started, or if this is something new, because I really, really feel that this is something that could potentially be a great social distancing scenario.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is I feel like the big twist of this is being able to, it's all of a sudden you're separated, you have to play by yourself. Because a lot of people, normally when this game came out, you would meet up with a group of like 2 to 3 people. You guys would play together through the scenarios, whatever. Then we had pandemic hit. Now a lot of people are just used to playing the game solo. So I feel like that aspect of the game is actually probably easier for people to adapt to because it's something that they've been so used to, is like really fine-tuning and playing a hero to where they're super comfortable with. The giving like independent challenge is probably like something like, oh yeah, well I did this for a long period of time. So this is interesting to see if like this little challenge, see if I built my deck efficiently or well enough that I can defeat this challenge.
Devin believes that he heard there's only 4 stage 2.
Cool. Cool.
So,
I wondered if they were going to give more, to give like a little twist, so there might be like some variety in the ones you see everyone, but I figured there would at least be 4 because 4 is kind of like where they want the game to cap out at. So Cool, good call.
I mean, you could always play with 2, and then you'd have then you wouldn't know what's coming, right? So
yeah, I mean, it's true. If you play with fewer than 4, then you'll get that randomness of which ones come in.
But we still haven't seen that perspective of how this is going to play from like the solo perspective, right? Like, I think that was hinted at that there is a way to do this solo, but we'll see how it comes. But I really think that this is an interesting mechanic. You know, how can I put this? I don't want to, you know, I think this game, they're trying to push different levels of process, or the design process. You know, we saw that with Wrecking Crew, and now we're seeing like a different way to play a scenario, you know, with Kang. And I really like it. Now, whether that is for the best or for the worst, right? Whether this works out tremendously easy, tremendously hard. This one here, I want to think that the difficulty level should be up there, right?
Well, what I will add is I think the difficulty of this one, so we've commented a bunch on how we feel the Wrecking Crew feels pretty easy when you get the gimmicks down and stuff like that. It's fine. While I think this one will stand the test and give you the difficulty is because you can use like the modules in the deck, which Wrecking Crew couldn't use modules. This is designed where you can put modules into the deck so you can amp up the difficulty level by trading those out. And I think that's going to let this scenario hit a little bit better than the Wrecking Crew did.
Yeah, that's a good observation there. So I mean, I think it is because, I mean, there's a couple times when, you know, you rely on a buddy to help you out, grab a minion, take something, you know. So there's going to be none of that in this format. So it'll be very interesting from a play style. I really love the fact that they're pushing boundaries. Caleb has a great background with the amount of creativity that was in those Lord of the Rings scenarios. So, you know, utilizing those pieces and bringing them into Marvel is just great.
And the other really cool thing the scenario pack does. So
introduces a dinosaur?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
But longtime viewers may know that a little while back we did our most impactful obligations episode. This scenario pack adds a bunch of obligations, and obligation is actually a keyword it triggers a bunch off of throughout the cards in the pack, where it'll like fish and trigger off the number of obligations in play. So we kept making comments about obligations could be a bigger deal going forward. These obligations are really good. Well, this scenario adds a bunch of obligations built into the villain deck, plus is more likely to trigger and pull yours out to make you have to deal with it throughout the game.
Oh, Corey, I love it when we're right. The once and future bad publicity.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's time traveling now? All right, so that's the mechanic here. The rest of the scenario kind of breaks down here, you know, with some spoilers. But what we're gonna do is jump over to Hall of Heroes.
Great website, by the way, if you've not checked it out. Just want to give them a plug because they do a really good job of also giving us plugs. So check out Hall of Heroes. It's a really good resource for finding, like, if you look for spoilers or if you want to get like a good card listing. They also compile a bunch of articles and interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they make our lives easier for times like this.
Absolutely.
So I mean, like, we're not going to hit on everything here, you know. But here you can see.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil a bunch of the pack, but there are some key cards that stand out.
Corey, anything that you want to touch on first? I mean, I got Kang the Conqueror up here.
Just like his base, yeah, and this is kind of like his main form. So tough is always really crazy. And then he does a lot of triggers where you can like put threat or you buff his attack. That's not like too out of the wild that we've seen. Another cool thing, a card that I do want to call up if you have past machinations. I don't know if you can pull that one up. because there is a new mechanic that his pack brings in called Insight. And Insight is you place a threat on the main scheme when the card is revealed. And so...
Gotcha. We're up here.
Yep. And what does that when revealed ability do? Well...
Each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile for a different obligation and reveals it. Shuffle the encounter deck.
Those obligations, guys. They're going to be serious things to deal with. So that's like one, like the new Insight keyword is cool. It's another thing to like really helps to like hit the main scheme. Another card that so he's got these side schemes that turn off cards based on like your alter ego or your basic hero cards. Which is also seems like really impactful and pretty powerful. So there's a lot of things where he's going to like fluctuate and play with like what you're allowed to do.
Yeah, like corrupted time stream here, right? Players cannot trigger alter ego actions. When revealed, each player must either discard one random card from hand or place 2 threat here.
Oh, you didn't finish that sentence. Players cannot trigger alter ego action abilities on obligations.
Sorry.
Which means that when obligation hits, you can't just exhaust your character to get rid of the obligation. You have to eat the obligation.
Eat it.
Yeah. So it's gonna be a big deal, folks. So, just saying. But yeah, so I mean that's some cool stuff. And then like some of his default obligations are like stolen memories, which is a big one that I think is gonna be like super obnoxious when that comes up.
Bring it up here. Yep. Go ahead.
And that's when revealed, you place the top 8 cards of your deck face down under that card. And then as an alter ego action, you can discard a science resource from your hand, discard this obligation. And it is an obligation keyword. So it can be searched and found, and then he just will steal 8 cards from your deck and tuck it away until you get them back. So...
It's I really think, like I said, they're really pushing the design space with this, and I love where it's going. Like, there's obviously the T-Rex.
Of course, yeah. He's gonna come with 3 modules. He's got I think it's like the Anachronauts is like his hard one.
Yep.
And then he's got the like
Death Hunt 9000.
Yeah, he's got like his regular like temporal. I think it's like his generic one. Yep. And then he's got one where he's like in the deck, so you can play with that module in Kang. But I think that module is if you wanted to bring Kang into a different scenario. Yeah, it's kind of the intention of it. You can pull him in some of his tricks.
Master of Time.
Yeah, you can pull him into other scenario packs and stuff like that.
Which is, I mean, I think that's just a super smart move. And looking back, I wish that they had done that with Goblin as well. Like buy the pack, and then you're almost getting like that, like not only the scenario, but the, a modular villain that you can put across. Now, I mean, Green Goblin did come with like a whole whack of those extra villains and stuff, right? So,
yeah, but it's cool because as you like add them in, right, maybe you'll get to the point where you can almost get like all the Spider-Man villains and like have all their modules, and then you have all these Spider-Man villains you have to battle at once. So there's lots of cool things you can do when you have them as the scenario and the villain module. So
yeah, you're pretty much building your own Sinister Six scenario at that point, right? So
yeah. Pretty cool. But yeah, so I mean, he's got some really neat stuff. It looks like he's definitely going to test you, and that's where I go back earlier to how I feel like the difficulty level this is going to hold up, just because of how he's going to keep warping your play style, and how like you can increase his difficulty with the modules. And I'm really intrigued to see if like this type of villain maybe will bring the power level down on some of these OP busted heroes, because like usually those really powerful heroes have really impactful obligations, and Kang looks like he's going to make you really pay for obligation effects. So interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, so here's what I have to think about what this is going to do from my thinking. So I think that when when you look at you're playing a game, it's my hero choice is honestly very, very cut and dry. I gravitate towards certain heroes, and whether win, whether lose a scenario, like when we adjust the difficulties, the hardness, there's certain ones that if I'm playing with my group, I just like to play. I don't care if it's the third time of that hero or if it's the 50th time of that hero. There's just some heroes that I generally enjoy playing. Now, when you look at certain heroes in builds, I think this is where it's going to be interesting, because I am not a primary solo player of this game, other than present scenario excluded, like world events, yada yada, right?
Yeah, understandable.
So I don't build my deck for solo play, but there is a clear distinction between building a solo deck and building a multiplayer deck. Now, what Kang is going to do, it's going to force you to almost build hybrid style decks. You have to stand on your own. Like, I would have to assume, like, let's assume that the difficulty of this is a good weighted scenario, okay? That it's not going to be a cakewalk, that there's going to be, some very difficult choices that you're going to be faced with. So that being said, you're going to have to play well with a group, but be balanced enough that during that second phase, you have to stand on your own. Like, there's no sharing of cards. There's no using resources. You have to be well balanced as a standalone deck. Now, whether you build your deck like that anyway, like maybe you're just someone that's like, this is my deck, I play solo with it, I go to my friend's house, I play with this deck, I don't care what anybody else is doing, I don't care if two other people at that table are playing aggression, I am taking my aggression deck. I'm not, we're not a balanced play group. It's like leadership, your aggression, okay, let's go. Like, nope, I'm aggression, your aggression, let's go, right? Like, so
to bring the beats.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Because we all know, like, aggression can stand on its on its own two legs when it comes to soloing. I mean, you just aggro it as quickly as you can.
Yeah, then rip the other legs off of your opponent.
Yeah, right. But I don't know if that's going to be the key here, right? Like, if some people will have to change up their deck styles. Yeah,
I agree. And I think it's going to be really interesting on like deck building for the scenario, because you do have to find like that balance, and then you're going to come back. Apparently, you're going to converge back again as a team. So I'm also wondering if like those team buff cards. Those are going to be important to try to find early to like get them out for your teammates and stuff like that, because then they just become kind of like resources effectively in the solo portion of the game. So pretty sweet. So I guess knowing this, are there any heroes? Like any champions that kind of like jump out to you that'd be like really fun to try this scenario with, or ones you're looking forward to playing with it, and ones you think might struggle or might be a little disadvantaged with the hybrid nature of the scenario? And if anyone in chat has any opinions on this, I would love to hear what you guys think. So
again, we're this is first impressions. This is just
correct.
This is just thoughts. Okay.
We're not going to come back and like hold it to be like, aha, you said they were going to be bad this scenario. They own this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Doctor Strange is probably going to be a good one to play against. You can see some of these cards with the toughness, right? Like,
there is a lot of toughness.
So when you're doing stuff like that, and Doctor Strange can play with those mechanics, manipulate them a bit. I think he's always going to be that one hero that is, unfortunately, it's not like they're going to come out with a nerf to him because it's not a competitive game, but I I think that he is what he is, and he's just going to be that hero that if you put him in the game, he's just going to be the power level is going to be up there.
Yeah. Now, if he does it'd be interesting to see, though, as he gets hit with cards that, like, steal cards from his deck and mess with things like that. It's interesting to see, because we know, like, how good he is in other scenarios. If some of the tricks the scenario may pull, they mess with his power level a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe he just like brushes it off, crushes Kang.
So that's one that I think is going to be a one that would probably be an easy play. If I am to pick the other end of the spectrum, I would say Iron Man would be a hard one to play. And my only thoughts basically around that are because of stolen memories. If Iron Man is not set up enough, I don't know when that stolen memories is coming out. If pieces of your suit and your setup cards that you're really digging for in Iron Man,
it's a really good call.
If that gets triggered too early, and whatever those 8 cards from your deck are and scooped underneath this, phase 2, you gotta be screwed. Like, if you're not set up in phase 1, like in even phase 1, Iron Man, you're probably not contributing because you know the clock is on you, that if I don't get set up enough, I know that I'm going into my own game in a few minutes. So I would say that Iron Man is probably going to be a good challenge here.
Gotcha. Cool.
Your thoughts?
Gut reaction, I think heroes that'll probably be good. I would lean towards maybe like She-Hulk, just because she has she can just bring the beats like really fast. She can interact with like scheme trickery a little bit as well, but she's got some variety on like applying damage to a single target or spreading it out. She's got some buffs she can give to the team, but she's built really well to kind of survive on her own when it flips to the solo match. But when I go to heroes that could struggle, she could also fall into that category because you're more likely to have her obligation trigger, and her obligation's pretty disgusting. I think the Hulk could be really hard if obligation fetching is really strong in the deck. But it depends on how the scenario ends up playing out. If the obligation doesn't come up, even with like the searching, if it's not as bad as it appears, Hulk's probably fine. But if it does come up a bunch, constantly like flipping and shifting you and like burning cards and stalling you out, could get really obnoxious for a Hulk player.
We've never really had a situation where cards get stolen before, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's just been like discarded, right?
Yeah.
It's just been like stuff that gets milled, and so you lose it. You get a little bit with Ultron. Ultron would steal cards temporarily for the drones, but that was like a couple at a time, and then they would go to your discard once you destroyed them.
Yeah, not like this. Not like where
but
it's
like
pulling.
Eight's a sizable chunk of cards from your deck.
I don't think that there would be. I don't think it would be easy, right? But you have cards that, like, if Thor's hammer were to get moved under there, I mean, like, you're always kind of using it, fetching it, using it, fetching it. But if there was a problem where, it kind of got moved in your deck or something like that, and you had to, like, pull off 8 cards, like, there's no way to fetch it from under him.
Yeah, that's true. Because like if you run an issue, I guess maybe like if your deck was forced to reshuffle, if you didn't have 8 and your hammer was in your discard, you had to reshuffle, and then he pulls it off like the cards that gets ripped in the top. That's pretty funny,
right? And
not gonna lie, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I know, right? Right, and I think, like we said, like it's really hard to pilot Thor without his hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, you can do without your shield if you don't have it. There's times when it's not used. I mean, obviously you want to be optimal in this game, so you try and do what you can with the cards you have, and if it's there, you want to be able using it. But I mean, again, like, so if Captain America's shield got pilfered out somehow, I don't know, but you know, again, that's could be a clutch situation, that maybe those are heroes that may, because of the luck of the draw in cards, that it could
hit, just rip off the top, until you get rid of the obligation. And so, and even then, like you're time walking and then putting them all into your discard. Like it's a big blow of momentum. So it's a big tempo swing. I think that's really what I'm trying to say. I'm also intrigued. I feel like Black Widow could play pretty cool in this scenario. Just because she seems to have like a nice spread of abilities about her. So that could be a fun one to play. I don't know. So then, it's cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
And then let's also say, so, I mean, I don't want to be 100% hung up and say that because of that, wherever it went, stolen memories mechanic, I don't want to say that I don't want to say that heroes that are affected by that are going to be the most impacted, but again, that's the one that just jumps out at me the most. So the only other one that I could add in there is Black Panther. If you're not set up with your suits, or if if say some of the cards that got put under there, like, well, what if it's ancestral knowledge? What if it's a piece of your battle suits? What if almost dropped the swear word. What if, gosh darn it, it's like a couple Wakanda Forevers that get stolen? How do you survive solo without a bunch of Wakanda Forevers?
Yeah, man. Heart of the cards. No, it's brutal, but I think that's where like he's probably going to swing like really hard. I mean, he's got a lot of obligations between the one that steals cards. He's got obligations that like turn off your hero cards. He's also got an obligation that just like takes your highest cost card. So he seems like he has a lot of things that just messes with you, the player, from like depowering your hero to taking away cards or stealing resources you have available. Like, Kang is not afraid of you. Okay? He's out to prove he's the best, and he's gonna mess with you as much as possible. And I think that's a good challenge. I think it's good to have like those heroes or those villains that are really gonna try to stick it to you and really like turn up the hard meter.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I got nothing else, Corey. You got some closing thoughts there?
Other than, this is super cool. It's really neat to see that. I mean, at this point, we're close to hitting the year mark for the game's existence, and we're already seeing some really cool variety in what they're trying to do with the scenario packs, and so that bodes well. They are trying, they're going to have like your bread and butter staple scenarios, your cool like storyline we're going to get with the Rise of the Red Skull, but then seeing these small packs, which I think it's cool. They're also doing these in the smaller packs, because if you don't want to play with this madness, isn't how you want to play the game, cool, just ignore the scenario pack. But if you want to really ramp up the complexity level, which is something we've chatted about a bunch, you want that increased complexity in your scenarios, or to really, get more of a challenge, it's cool to see them doing this and to really kind of step out of the box with some of the scenario design.
100%. I love the fact that this is so modular. I'm not chasing anything. I love the fact that I can, my group can get this at its own pace, or, one person can pick this up and then the rest of them can just pick it up at their own will. And the way that these things sell and fly off the shelves, thank goodness for that. So, great scenario pack coming down the pipe, I believe. Really, I love seeing them challenge it and step outside of the regular, here's a villain, fight the villain.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Initial impressions for Kang. Thank you very much for joining us. Guys, some of you that don't know, we have We made an announcement to people that donated and stuff like that, but we have closed off any kind of donations or Patreon activity stuff. We're not accepting any of that anymore. We do this just because we want to. Stuff that we invest in the show, we will invest, with our funds and stuff like that. So the best way you can support us, we're trying to consolidate all of our social medias out there. Follow us on Facebook. Just go give us a like. We usually announce everything there. If you ask for a Discord link, we'll share a Discord link with you. We're kind of semi-moving some of the stuff there, some hangouts and different things. So if that's something that you'd like, let us know. We can share that off with you. But we're not posting that around yet. But the best way that you can do us right now is make sure you're following us on Facebook.
Yep. And obviously subscribe on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Follow the channel.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and subscribe. We still check here for comments. Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
You know how we do that, Tango.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. Cool, guys. Well, thanks again for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, we almost ended at 40-40. That would have been cool. But anyway, yeah, thank you very much for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time. Probably next time we'll have Caleb on as a special guest. We're just working out logistics. So, I mean, if you stayed to the end, there's, again, a special bonus. Well, not really. I said it like in the first 3 minutes, didn't I? So
you did.
Oh, well. I don't know what you get for staying this long, but you get a firm virtual handshake from me. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
We're out.